Hello everyone, I am Hanuman Rajpurohit, a student at Swaminarayan University. Today I will be presenting a case study on one of the most devastating industrial disasters in human history, the Bhopal Gas Tragedy of December 1984. This incident is not merely a historical event, it serves as a powerful lesson on industrial responsibilities, environmental protection, and the importance of human safety. So, the second slide shows that the incident at a glance. On the night of 2nd and 3rd December 1984, a silent but deadly disaster struck the city of Bhopal. A heavily toxic chemical known as methyl isocyanate MIC leaked from an Union Carbide Indian Private Limited prestige pesticide plant. The tragedy was worsened by the fact that the factory was located very close to densely populated settled settlements with no adequate buffer zones separating industrial operations from residential areas. Thousands of people were exposed to the toxic gas while they were asleep, completely unaware of the danger. So, history and timeline. Let us briefly look at the timeline of event. The UCIL pesticide plant was established in 1969 in Bhopal, dangerously close to residential neighborhoods. By the year, by the early 1980s, declining pesticide demand led the company to adopt several cost-cutting measures. Maintenance was delayed, trained staff were reduced, and safety procedure became increasingly neglected. On the night of 2nd December 1984, water accidentally entered MIC storage tank 610, triggered an uncontrolled chemical reaction. By the early hours of 3rd December, approximately 40 tons of toxic gas had escaped into the atmosphere, exposing hundreds of thousands of people within a matter of hours. Scale of disaster. The magnitude of the disaster was enormous. Around 40 tons of MIC gas leaked from the plant. More than 3,800 people died immediately, while over 5 lakh people were exposed to the poisonous cloud, and the gas spread across nearly 30 square kilometers of the city. Investigations later revealed that all these three major safety systems, the gas scrubber, flare tower, and refrigeration unit, were either shut down or not functioning properly at the time of the leak. So, critical plant failure. Several critical failures contributed to this tragedy. First was uh, first was there was a technical failure as key safety mechanism were inactive. And second, cost cutting measures had reduced maintenance activities, safety inspections, and workforce training. Third, there was a serious regulatory failure. There were no proper buffer zone regulation, independently safety audits, or effective emergency preparedness plan. Together, these shortcomings created conditions for a disaster that could have been prevented. So on the sixth slide, human and ecological impact. So, the human impact of the tragedy was devastating. Thousands of people lost their lives within hours, and hundreds of thousands suffered long term health problems, including respiratory disease, neurological disorders, eye damage, and partial or completely blindness. Many families, their primary source of income, leading to prolonged social and economic hardship. The environmental consequences were equally served. Toxic substance the toxic substance that surrounding soil and underground water, affecting drinking water supplies for many years. Local vegetation, livestock, and ecosystem were heavily damaged in the affected areas. So on this slide, the structural failure analysis. We analyze when we analyze the root cause, we found we find failures at multiple levels. There were technical failures because safety systems were not operational. There were managerial failures as profit consideration were given priority over worker and community safety. There were regulatory failures since oversight agencies lacked storage monitoring and enforcement mechanism. Finally, there were social failures because nearby community had no warning system or evacuation plan or awareness about potential hazards. The Bhopal gas tragedy was therefore not simply an accident but a consequence of systematic negligence. Prevention and key learning. There are several important lessons that can be learned from this incident. Industrial handling hazardous chemicals should maintain multiple backup safety systems. Comprehensive environmental impact assessments (IEIAS) must be mandatory before establishing such facilities. Committees living nearby industrial plants should be improved about potential risk and should participate in regular emergency evacuation drills. Safe buffer disaster between industrials and residential area must always be maintained. Finally, the polluter pays principle should be strictly enforced so that corporations remain accountable for environmental damage and human suffering. So the conclusion to conclude the Bhopal gas tragedy remains as that no economic gain can justify the loss of human life and strong evaluation regulations, responsible industrial practices, and environmental awareness are essential for sustainable development. As students of environmental science, we have a responsibility to promote a future where industrial growth and public safety progress together. Res- Reference, I would say that the reference used for this presentation includes government investigation reports and publication from international health organization and our environmental science course material. Thank you for your attention. I would be happy to answer any questions.